So in the last lecture we added a new custom field here, and then we handled this field by hooking into the save post action, and the save post action will run every time you save a post. So when you save a post, your custom field will be available in the super global post. So we retrieve the value of the field that we added, and then we use update post meta to add it in the post meta table using this key. And so to retrieve this value in let's say one of our templates, maybe in the content here, we will use the get post meta, and then we will give it the key that we defined here. And we already done that when we needed to retrieve the value to put it in the input. But now we have some security issues. We're not checking for user capabilities before updating the post meta. So we need to check first that this user can edit posts, or in fact edit this specific post. And we've already done something like that in the last lecture. So let's add an if condition. And here we will check if the current user can. Current. And we will need to use the same capability that we used in the last lecture, which is edit posts, and then pass the post ID here. And then if not, we will return. But what we've done now might not be 100% accurate. So this will work if you are editing a post. But imagine this meta box was included in posts and pages and maybe other custom feeds as well. We mentioned in the first lecture in this section that this could be an array, and this same meta box can be in posts and pages. So if you check for edit post here, if you're on a page, this condition won't be suitable. The condition in this case will be edit page. So we need to get this capability name dynamically. And to do that, we can create a new variable. Let's call it edit capability, cape. And we call a function called get post type object. So we give this function a post type, and it will return an object that contains all the information about this post type. So we need to know the post that we are saving. Is it a post or a page or a custom post type maybe? So to do that, we have the post object here in the argument, so we can get the post type from it. So post type of post. So this will return a string, and this will be post or page or etc. And then this will return an object that contains information about this post type. And this object will contain a key called cape for capability. And this cape is an object, and it contains all the capabilities and their names. So we can access the edit post capability. And if the post type is a page, the edit post capability will be edit page, and so on. So this variable now will dynamically create the capability name. So in case you're confused, why don't we var dump this? Maybe inside the meta box. Let's echo pre tags here in order to see this clearly. So as you can see now, this is the post type object. It's of type WP post type. And our post type in this case is a post. And if we were editing a page, this would be a page. And then we have the capability key, which is an object that contains all the capabilities. So the edit post capability for the post is called edit post. But the edit post capability for another post type will be another thing here. So this way we are getting the capability name according to the post type. So let's carry on. And now we will need to use this as the capability name. So I hope this is clear. Let's now do the nonce. So when you are submitting this form, we need to submit a nonce field in order to verify it when we handle the data, right? So we know how to add this in a URL in a GET request, but in a form it will be a little different. So we will call a function called WP nonce field, and this will take an action. So in our case we are saving the meta box, so let's call it update post metabox, and let's ignore the other two arguments, and the name is the name of the field that you will retrieve in the post superglobal. So let's add this and you will know what I mean in a moment. So let's call it theme name update posts nonce. So what this function will do is that it will create a hidden field with the generated nonce. So let's inspect our form here, and as you can see we have a hidden field which is called theme name update post nonce, and the value is the nonce. So this information will now be sent in the post request, and we will have it here, so we can verify the nonce exactly like we did in the last lecture. So if it's not set, this time it's posts instead of get, and the name, which is this one, or if it's set and it's not a valid nonce field, so wp verify nonce, and it will receive the nonce field and the action, and we call the action the first argument in the wp nonce field function. So if it does not exist or it's not verified, we will also return. So this is how we secure saving our metaboxes. So let's now create one final thing for this lecture. Let's create a new field, but this time let's create a drop-down field, and we'll use this field when we are building our single .php file, which will be used for the single blog. So we need to add an option for the single blog. For every post we need the user to have the ability to choose whether the layout should be a full screen layout or the post content with a sidebar. So let's add a drop down that will contain these two options. So let's add a label. Let's escape and translate and echo. Let's call it layout, and our text domain, and close the label, and let's give it a 4 here. So this will be also the field name, so let's call it theme name post layout field. Let's copy this, we'll use it now in the drop down. So let's create a select with the name of our field and the ID, and also let's give it a class white fat, and let's close it, and we will now have to create the options for the select. So let's create an option, and this one will be the full screen blog, and let's copy one of these just to save some time, and we need to add a text for the option, so let's call it full width, and let's duplicate this, and this one will be opposed to the sidebar, so let's call it sidebar as a value, and here and we need now to handle this field, so let's copy this and modify it. So we have our field name is now this one, so let's paste it here and here, and let's call this key post layout, and sanitized text field can also work for a drop down. You can create a custom function like we did in the customizer, but you know, you get the idea. So let's use sanitized text field for now. And finally, we'll have to retrieve the field and add it as the value for the dropdown. So let's duplicate this and call it layout. And we have the meta key here. Make sure you don't mix it up with the field name. So this layout will now hold the value, And we now need to add a selected attribute for the selected value, right? So you can do this using if conditions and echo selected attribute if the value is full here and stuff like that. But actually WordPress provides a nice function called selected. So we can open PHP and call selected. And this will take the selected value, which will be the value that we got from the database, and the current option value, which will be full. And it will output the selected attribute if the layout is equals to full. So let's copy this, and we'll have to add it in every option. And just change the value. And I think this should be fine. So let's go back to the post, and now we have this option. Let's change it and save it. And it's saved, and everything is looking fine. So as you can see, every time you create a field, you have to write the HTML for it. And then for each field, you should handle its submission and update post meta and stuff like that. So if you are having a lot of fields, you will end up with a lot of HTML here and a lot of if conditions here. And this could be too much coding. We can do better than that. So what I was thinking is maybe creating an array. Let's call it fields or whatever. And this array will hold other arrays. And each array here will represent a field. So it will, for example, have a type of text. And maybe a label. And so on. And then when you need to add another text field, you just have to add another array in this fields array. And then instead of generating our HTML like so, we can just loop through this fields array and then check the type of the field and generate this HTML automatically. And then we could also create some custom field types like a color picker and write some JavaScript for it and stuff like that. But then I thought that would be too much for this course. So maybe I could create a separate course for it. Just let me know if you'll be interested in something like that. What we'll be creating is basically like a mini advanced custom fields plugin. But for now, let's leave it like that. And according to your feedback, I might create this course. And let's now address another problem. Now imagine we are defining these fields in our theme. So we have the post subtitle. And let's assume the user decided to change your theme, but he still needs these fields. He still needs the subtitle to use it in his new theme. So defining these fields in your theme like we did now is not a best practice. Instead, we should define these fields in a plugin. So a plugin in WordPress is the same as writing some functions in functions with PHP. Instead, we write it in a separate folder in a plugin so that it will not be dependent on the active theme. So we need to do that for our Metaboxes in order for them to be available even if the user decided to change your theme. And before going to the next lecture, I want to quickly show you what the custom fields will look like if we activate the Gutenberg plugin. Let's refresh. As you can see, it still exists and it's working fine. However, now you cannot add this Metabox in the sidebar. So this is not a big deal, and this might actually change by the time Gutenberg is not released yet. So let's now move our custom fields to a separate plugin.